Bet you didn't see that one coming, did you?
It truly blew me away. Jiminy Cricket.
Jiminy Cricket. Yeah. It has been a long time coming on this recording.
That sound?
Yeah. I've been thinking about that sound all day.
I'm listening to this incredible David Lynch book called Room to Dream. It's a biography of David Lynch, but because it's a David Lynch biography, it has a very weird form where one chapter, it has alternating chapters between the biographer and David Lynch. And in the biographer chapters, obviously, it's just kind of concrete facts of his career, et cetera, et cetera.
It's a real biographer.
It's the biography part of the book. And then in the David Lynch chapters, it's kind of a commentary on that period of time. And some of the anecdotes are so bizarre. And if it was just the biography, I feel like it would be still quite good, but probably a little boring. And if it was just David Lynch, you'd actually have no idea what his life was like. Anyway, there was a moment in the book today that I was listening to where he says that his second son, Austin, is born, his second child. And he said that he saw him in the delivery room and he looked exactly like Jiminy Cricket.
I can't relate to that. Isn't Jiminy Cricket small and green?
Yes.
And also really thin, I guess? Yes. He's not green. Oh, he's got a top hat on.
Yeah.
You remember that?
Yes.
Do you think the child had a top hat on?
I don't think so. I mean, I suppose, well, yes, he had a hat on. I think all babies do when they're born. Not with hat.
They're born with that hat.
Babies in hospitals have hats placed on them shortly after they are born.
You know, the more I'm looking at Jiminy Cricket right now, the more I'm actually just seeing a human infant child. Maybe that's what they were going for.
He's done it for you. Yeah, I thought that was so great that that's his takeaway. He was present at the births of both of his children, his daughter Jen and his son Austin, which was pretty rare at the time. Actually, men did not attend the labor rooms, and he insisted on it.
It's scary.
Yeah. I guess so. I think it's also because they don't want the men fainting and getting like taking up.
Here's the subtweet. They don't want these men fainting.
They don't.
The way that I did during your epidural.
You didn't faint. You just sort of required medical attention.
It was the most of a faint that I've ever had in my life. Was when that debonair doctor came in and he was literally like snapping his gloves and flinging things onto his tray. And he was just like so extra.
Yeah, it was very strange.
He was wiggling the needle around above your back so that I could see it, just like wiggling it around like a dildo. Like it was crazy the things that this man was doing. And I was just, it was a very long labor. So I was very exhausted as you were as well. But we both had been generally without sleep for a very long time, and that got to me. The wiggling of the needle got to me, and I had to sit down on the floor, and then the nurse who was supposed to be helping you, she had to help me. So that was not my finest moment.
She did suddenly have to tend to you.
Yep.
Anyway, so
Jiminy Cricket.
This is a night edition. I think that'll be very obvious to anyone watching
on YouTube, although there are many of you who never watch on YouTube, which I can tell you, having studied the analytics. However, there's so much time and energy put into clearing storage on my iPhone in order for this video to take place. It's just, it blows the mind.
Could you just give it a quick glance?
Just give it a glance to see if we look all right, will you? Because I just had to delete 7 years of conversations with my wife in order for this video to come to you tonight.
I have a copy on my end. Anyway, so I bought wine because we're doing the night edition.
Night edition entails a bottle of wine.
Night edition entails a bottle of wine. We're in New York where it has gotten warmer, although it's actually not that warm right now, but
we had a 75 day, which was very nice.
I bought a sparkling white wine, an Italian sparkling white wine, something really middle of the week hangout.
It was supposed to be an orange wine, right?
It was supposed to be an orange wine. There were some miscommunications. The second miscommunication is between New York and the Knicks.
It's also between Mike Brown, Karl Anthony Towns, and Jalen Brunson.
Yeah.
There's miscommunication between the three of them.
There's been some miscommunication because it appears that we have lost.
I'm not sure when you
So this is another strange reason to be drinking sparkling wine. We were supposed to be drinking it and talking about the fact that it's incredible that we won. But right now we're drinking it and we're talking about how it's kind of confusing that we lost.
Yeah, we're recording this one day after Game 3 of the NBA Finals right now. The New York Knicks were, until last night, on fire. 13 wins in a row. So I requested an orange wine for the blue and orange New York Knicks. The wine that came was not orange.
Yeah. So
the win that was to be did not arrive either.
But Wednesday, which is not today, which is tomorrow, certain different things will happen. So perhaps there's another game tomorrow. We will be ordering an orange wine tomorrow. Okay. So that's that. So I'm going to open this.
Yeah.
Why don't you open it actually? Because you, I do the procuring and you do the opening, and
Sure.
you're using our Moby Dick themed wine opener that we bought when we went to go see the Moby Dick opera, which I, to this day, am uncertain whether I would recommend to someone or not.
I would never recommend that to anyone. Not to my worst enemies.
I might. Sparkling white wine at 8:30 p.m. Good Lord, do I wish I had some gummy bears right now. I mean,
we're short on supplies at the moment.
Gummy bears, very salty potato chips, crisps, as we call them in Dublin. And I don't know, maybe just a tart apple.
All right, so we have Diletta Tonello. It is from Italy. Trying to find where. It's a Bianco Veneto, so I'm guessing that means that it's a Venetian Frizzante from 2024. Marachele Tonello. All right, let's give it a go.
Let's give it a go. We don't have the bucket, but that's okay.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Here's to the New York Knicks.
Oh, let's go, boys.
Wow.
This is so good. This is very good. This does make me want to eat pizza, though.
I think that it has a kind of a ghostly quality. It's not extremely flavorful. Like, it's not a very sharp flavor, but it has kind of a green apple underneath in a ghostly fashion.
The phantom green apple.
It's a bit frightening, yeah. I feel scared.
I'm spooked.
I'm feeling spooked. I'm feeling extremely inspired by sports right now, actually. I think the way that when you get really invested in a team like the New York Knicks and me into them right now, and you start watching, game after game. It's the playoffs, so this is really the only time of year that I'm watching every single game. But the narratives that develop over the course of the series, the way their individual play styles translates into, a feeling on the court and everything. These are all things that I find extremely inspiring when it comes to thinking about voice, thinking about, plot, all of these different things in my own writing. I think that the movement of a player on the court is kind of the same thing as the voice of a writer on the page. Just like there's a quality to them. It's like when you watch somebody walking, right?
Yeah.
And they have a special way of walking that no one does but them. And even I, with my ratchet-ass eyesight, and when I have my glasses off and I can't see anything in front of me, just from the way someone moves, I can tell who it is. I think that's the way that voice works in writing.
Yeah. I really never know what that word means.
They say find it. Find your voice.
They do say that. They also say that you can't change it. They also say that you either have it or you don't. They also say that it's the marker of a talented writer. They also promise to cultivate it in you at the Gotham Writers Workshop.
Oh, well, you guys sign up.
Well, my point is, I don't know. I don't know what it is, or I don't know how to define it very well. But I will say that I recognize it quite quickly.
Yeah.
In writing I like. You know, I recognize it from one project to another in an author who's, let's say, you know, works I'm reading, and I recognize it on the page when I encounter something I like. I kind of will sacrifice most other things for that quality if I like that quality.
You mean if the voice is good, there doesn't need to be a good story. There doesn't need to be interesting characters. The voice of the language itself can carry you along.
You never read this, and you won't. It's just not the kind of thing you like. So I can keep recommending it to you over the years, and you won't read it. But Why Did I Ever by Marilyn Robinson? Do you remember that book?
I did read that book.
You did read it. Oh, that's right.
I mean, you're partially right. Because I did read that book up until about page 90 or something, which is the majority of the book, right?
I was going to say, you read most of the book.
Yeah. I didn't finish it.
Yeah.
Because I really struggle with just fragmentary narratives that were extremely popular. I mean, honestly, like, I feel like maybe they're still popular right now, but they were like really popular in the 2010s.
Yeah, that book is very popular.
In the 2010s. People still love it.
Anyway.
It's not Marilyn Robinson, though.
It's Robeson. Yeah. She has a very distinct voice. It's very apparent. It is the voice of that character. It's a very character-driven book. And it's wonderful. It really is. But I've since, you know, I've read books like that since, and I still feel like there is something particular about that book to me, that even that sort of funny, kind of fizzy, frenetic narrator, even that category of writing is still kind of doesn't do it for me quite like that book does.
Yeah, I mean, it's very Bianco Veneto, right? It's like this ghostly wine in that it's sort of on the page, but it's beneath. I don't know. It's really hard to describe. There are many books, I think, that fall into that genre. You know, like Speedboat by Renata Adler is another one that book reminded me of so well. And I mean, I loved Speedboat when I read it, and I read it on the beach at like Fort Tilden, maybe like 10 years ago. And I read it, and as soon as my eyes passed to the next page, I forgot it immediately. It didn't stick with me in any way. I loved the experience of reading it. I can see exactly where I was while I was reading it, which is generally the mark of a good reading experience, right?
Yeah.
And I think that that's the voice. The voice is the thing that carries you. And there's just something slippery about it that it doesn't stick to memory in the way that some other things do, maybe. But the voice is enough.
Yeah. I also think, you know, I've reread Why Did I Ever? And it has this quality to me where I can just pick it up kind of whenever. It doesn't come with a lot of weight or strings attached as a book.
That's kind of what I'm talking about. It doesn't.
Yeah.
It's not as sticky in the way that, like, I don't know. I mean, I feel that we haven't read Anna Karenina for years, and there are scenes from that which are so vivid in my memory to this day. Like the horse race, I remember that so vividly. Vronsky tripping over his horse or whatever, that was just unbelievably vivid storytelling. And these don't have it in that same way, And I mean, the question is that a difference in storytelling, or is that a difference in voice, or is it a difference in both?
Yeah.
I don't know. And I don't think that we've gotten any closer to defining what voice means.
As a people, or in the course of this conversation?
I mean, certainly in the course of this conversation. In terms of people, I mean, I remember I had an argument with Giancarlo Di Tropano once where he was drilling me about how I just needed to, like, pick a voice, not pick one, but, like, find the voice, which I had already. So he was really saying pick it and just drill into it and do that one thing. And I was saying, that sounds so fucking boring to me.
Like over the course of your career to do that.
To pick one way of telling a story and just tell everything in that way. My argument with him was, I think that a writer can be more of a chameleon than that, and they can sort of have their voice shift as the topic that they're covering shifts, So, like, if I'm writing about a corporate lawyer, then the corporate lawyer is going to channel a different voice than if I'm, writing about a child. Mm-hmm. And in that way, these voices are going to vary. However, I mean, I think that you would say that I have one of the, like, more recognizable voices of the people that you know. You've told me that before. Mm-hmm. So I try to vary my voice, but maybe I just can't. And that's evidence of the innateness of voice. I don't know.
Yeah. I think I also probably agree with Giancarlo in that I don't know that it's picking a voice or finding a voice, but I like to have a relationship with the author of the books that I like. They don't disappear for me. I'm always aware of the fact that a person has written this, and I feel like the act of reading something that I really love is also an act of getting to know this person. And so to me, I am looking for similarities and consistencies and personality and artistic proclivities from one project to the next. So I think maybe I'm looking for those similarities intentionally, even though many writers are trying kind of intentionally to vary their stories.
Their output.
Yeah, and vary their voices and vary,
You're talking about reading, like, authors that have multiple books, though. What about a new author? When you're reading, like a young author's work, how do you know if that has voice or not?
Well, everything has voice.
I mean, do you think so?
Yeah, I do. I think everything has voice.
So people don't have to find their voice. They already have it.
No, they do. They have to hear it. They have to find it. They have to refine it. They have to lean into it. It's like discovering... it's a very difficult thing to learn how to dress well. And it very rarely has to do with money. Because some people dress very well on very little money, and some people dress very poorly on a lot of money.
Most people, I would say, that have a lot of money to spend on their clothing.
And the way that you learn how to dress is a lot of different things. But the first thing that you have to learn is just what you can and cannot pull off.
You personally.
Yes, you have to understand your body. You have to understand you have to understand your shape. You have to understand what you like and why you like it. And you have to kind of weigh
the things that you like against whether you looking the way that you look can pull that thing off, right? So I think frequently about how I spent many years working at a fantastic Mexican bar and restaurant that has now since closed called Baby Bo's Cantina in Murray Hill.
You do think about it a lot. You just wrote about it in your recent Substack post.
I love Baby Bo's Cantina. I loved it.
RIP.
And R.I.P. And I was often working the Fridays and Saturday nights and coming home quite late. We would shut down, whatever, 11 something, and then we would all sort of bimble around the staff that was working that night at a bar next door, and then I would have to walk from 2nd Avenue up to 6th along 34th to get on the train. And Murray Hill is a young neighborhood, and a lot of people go out in that neighborhood to the local bars. There are a lot of sports bars, etc. And I'd see all these girls that are dressed up, to go out. And I would be coming back to the train at around 1 a.m. and they'd all be walking. Inevitably, there'd be a group of them, and half of them would be walking with their heels in their hands. They'd have their little peace fingers, and they'd have their, the shoes just kind of dangling like little...
Their peace heels.
Yeah, like little purses. And, and they'd just be walking with their flip-flops on, or they'd be walking barefoot if they were drunk enough. And those were the smart ones, because there was another category of girl who was just intent on walking home or wherever to the next place in the shoes, but she hadn't quite figured out how to walk in the heels, or she got too tired and, was too drunk. And so she's now like hobbling in these heels like a strange pony on its hind legs. And I remember thinking that there's just no amount of money that you could have spent on those shoes that could save them now, because you don't know how to wear them. You can't wear heels. If you wore $15 heels, but you knew how to wear them, no one would know.
So how does this apply to a writer's voice?
I think that you have to understand what you are good at on the page. You have to understand what your voice can do and what it's good at and what it can't do. And I think that's the thing that takes time, right? So I think that if you force, a certain level of kind of awkward lyricism to yourself because you're fashioning yourself a poetic writer, but that's just not sort of how you think, and it's not how you really talk, and it's not how you really imagine things, and it's not how you interpret the world, right? It's not your actual philosophy on life. You can't force that into the voice.
Yeah.
Similarly, I think if you want that really like gutted minimalism that we all love about America.
The Gordon Lish minimalism.
Yeah. I think that some people just can't really get there. They can't really remove all the debris from their writing because they are a little bit more lush, because they are a little bit more lyrical kind of naturally, right? They have a sort of a sentiment and a sincerity to their work that it's just, you can't scrub out.
And it's funny because any sensitive person will know about their friends, their family, their acquaintances, anyone they meet, really, their unique voice just from meeting that person. The way that they stand when they say things to you, the way that they say things to you, what they say to you, what they say, what the content of their speech is, and what they leave out, which is, just as much part of the communication as anything else. And the much more difficult thing is seeing those things in yourself, of course.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the ways to find your voice are horrible and uncomfortable, and the things that are almost cliche because of how painful they are to people, like watching a tape of yourself speaking, recording your voice and hearing what it sounds like, reading your work out loud and not fucking rushing it, reading it slowly at your speaking pace so you can see if the words that you have on the page could even fit in your mouth when you say them out loud. Because so often there's something that I'll write that when I go to read it out loud later, I'm like, oh my God, I can tell there are like 14 different inaccuracies in this sentence to what I want it to say. Just because of the way that it comes out of my mouth, the way that I stumble on this word. Okay, if I stumble there, that's actually not me fucking up the read. That's me learning something about the writing that it needs to conform to me rather than my voice try to conform to it, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think like anything else, all of this gets resolved with just writing a lot. Everything just comes down to just do it again, just try it again, kind of keep making things.
Get your piece, girl, heels.
You thought I didn't have it. You thought that I had just
I thought you
gone,
were off the rails.
You thought I got off the rails, and I was just, I was on.
waiting. You were waiting for the prompt.
Traffic swarms like bees against the banks. Glass half nervous. Glass half nervous.
I prepared this one special for you, too. I want you to know that.
Thank you.
It's been in the oven for 1 month now. It's been baking. We got cultural muffin over here. I can't stop writing like an edgelord. As the title says, whenever I touch my keyboard, it's like I get possessed by a 15-year-old boy, and I write like the world owes me something. When I'm writing, I don't even notice, but literally the second I finish, I get post-write clarity and cringe. I write like the main character in The Player Hides His Past. I've never heard that before. It's like I accidentally pad every description with unnecessarily fancy words and descriptions until it makes no sense. Sometimes it's fine, but when I just want to write my Omegaverse fanfic, it feels so weird and out of place to read.
Aww.
When I actively try not to, my writing feels boring and I go back and add. I guess this is a self-imposed problem and I definitely could resolve it, but does anyone know how I can stop writing like every paragraph needs to be an in-depth analysis of what's happening?
Do you think that this is actually a problem?
I think that this person, it's funny because I hadn't read this, but I read the title before, but I did not read the content. And it's so much just a question of this person's voice, right?
Yeah.
What they describe doesn't sound like an edgelord to me.
Well, for those of us who were born yesterday, can you tell us what an edgelord is?
Oh, an edgelord is a very edgy man, typically online.
Certainly not at your local laundromat.
I mean, they're there too. They're the ones that are always pushing buttons. They're just seeing how close to the edge they can get, pissing everybody off before they get their ass kicked, basically. And they're always trying not to get their ass kicked. But, you know, they're an edgelord. They're typically like a little red pilly.
Is the edgelord afraid?
Does
you
the
say?
edgelord fear?
Yeah, that's the question. Is the edgelord a naturally fearful person?
That is such a deep question. I don't know. Like, do you mean, is that why they act that way?
Yeah, my question is, do you think that the instinct comes from, you know, I wonder what they'll do to me? Or does it come from, you know, I wonder how angry I can make them?
Maybe let's try to think about what this person means by edgelord. Because...
Well, I guess my understanding would be that people would find this kind of writing annoying or pedantic or
annoying, interesting. Because to me, an edgelord isn't the person who corrects your grammar necessarily. He's the person that like fucks up the grammar to piss other people off. But okay.
I think that the edgelord would be the person that corrects your grammar based on how you're describing an edgelord.
Okay. Well, in that case, I mean, I can see it fitting. Because it sounds like this person is trying to write their Omegaverse fanfic.
What is the Omegaverse?
You know, girl, I can't tell you.
I can't believe that you don't know what the Omegaverse is. You're my hyperlink to reality.
It is a
Internet
popular speculative fiction genre and fan fiction trope based on a fictional secondary gender system.
Oh.
reimagines human or werewolf in parentheses. So werewolves are involved at times. Biology by dividing characters into hierarchical roles that govern social dynamics, unique anatomy, and biological mating instincts. It's a sex thing.
It's a sex thing. Well, anyway, my question to you is, do you think that what this person is describing as a problem that they need to fix is actually a problem?
Male pregnancy.
Sorry. What?
I think that's one of the main Omegaverse things is male pregnancy.
You know, I've been really interested in
Junior.
in when men want to experience pregnancy, because I've read about this before. Men who are like really fixated on wanting to experience pregnancy.
What I'm seeing as the common ground here is that this person's looking at their own writing, hearing their own voice, and feeling disgusted. They have that post-write clarity. That's what they're calling it. You know, post-nut clarity kind of vibe. That's a tip of the old fedora to.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, you're really seeing things that I'm not seeing here.
Look,
This is like when you brought that Lee Childs thing in, and I was like, well, I'm sure she's a very nice lady.
Lee Child, that was embarrassing for you. To this day, I think about that, and I just cry, and I laugh, and I cry.
Post-right clarity.
I wonder if it's
Something deeper than that, though. I wonder if it's discussed with how they think they're being perceived as writers, right? Meaning, I'm disgusted with my voice, but more importantly, I'm disgusted with how people would imagine I, the author, to be if they were to read this kind of writing, right?
That sort of infatuation.
What kind of a person would, this has to be the most whatever kind of person, whatever their, fill in the blank for their worst nightmare adjective. And I actually think this is tied to voice, because I think that sometimes I can't remember the name of the writer, and I will, and I feel really bad about that. But when I was in graduate school, we have the visiting writers series that happens over the course of the year, each year, and we had a visiting writer come, and he had said this thing that at the time I found so sort of silly, and it sounded so bitter when he said it, but I think about it a lot now. And he said, someone had asked him a question about sort of ambitious projects, I think. And he said, at the end of the day, you can wish that your work was a certain kind of work, but it's only ever going to be what it is. You're only ever going to be able to write the way that you write. Yeah. And so you just have to come to terms with that. You just can't be certain writers, and you just can't write in a certain way. You can't change certain aspects of who you are as an artist. And at the time, I felt like he was sort of consoling himself in the moment, right? Basically saying, well, because I tried to be whatever kind of writer and I just wasn't successful. But I think actually he was just saying a very basic fact of life, right? Like, you just can't be anyone other than yourself. And so you might as well just start to embrace the qualities of your voice on the page.
I mean, this goes back to the Giancarlo thing, where for him, voice was innate. And it's something that you have to find in yourself. Again, the word find is very difficult for me to tolerate right here, because I think that it's there all the time. Like, you can't duck your voice. It's going to be there. If this is the definition you're going by, the innate voice, you can only write what you're going to write idea, right? And I wonder about that. Do you have experiences in your life where you were trying to write things that you just weren't you?
Do you remember when I had I don't know if you had seen this draft of it, but I had been working on, you call it the Love Doctor story.
Love that story. I'm linking that in the show notes, guys.
That's very sweet. I had been working on this story for many, many years, and I got the idea for it at the time that I was alone in Montauk. It doesn't matter. I was just kind of going crazy.
Just alone in Montauk, going crazy.
I was. That is exactly what was happening. I didn't have a phone, and I thought that someone was coming after me. And anyway, so around this time, I had read. John Pissarro gave me a copy of George Saunders's, I think it's second collection of short stories called Pastoralia. I don't know his work well enough. It may be the first, it may be the second, but I read Pastoralia and I thought it was so great. And I feel like it was
How old were you?
I was maybe 24 or 25.
Yeah.
And
good time to be reading.
But I didn't make the connection at the time. I didn't make the connection that I'd read Pastoralia around that time, and then I was working on this short story, and I wasn't doing anything with my fiction at that time. I wasn't submitting it anywhere. I wasn't doing anything with it. Mm-hmm. So I had just written this short story, and the earlier drafts of it are very clearly trying to model themselves after George Saunders. Like that voice and that type of writing, that style was so specific and so particular and like so it just begged to be copied, I think. Right? That sort of satire, that humor, that brilliant, really sincere but also really sort of funny. Anyway, I mention all of this because I've gone through so many different versions of that short story. I've edited it, I don't know, something like 22 times. It's the most I've ever edited a thing. And there's one character in there, Mr. Finnick, and I just like never quite scrubbed the George Saunders out. Yeah. Like I just never lost it. To me, I think to other people it's fine, but to me it's always like, there she was, reading Pastoralia.
I love that story. Yeah, I mean, I do think that one of the few ways that a writer can sort of obscure themselves and really do themselves dirty is by trying to mimic other writers, you know?
Yeah, but you advocate for models all the time.
I advocate for models, but that's typically when I'm talking about structure and plot. It's like, how is this thing structured? You know, Shakespeare's a great person to look at and be like, I can write like a modern version of, you know, Hamlet or something like that. And just like port the structure of the piece, like what happens in Act 1, what happens in Act 2, all of that kind of stuff. And then the dressing of it is really where voice lives, I think, versus when you find a writer who you're really infatuated with and you fall in love with very quickly, and then you write a piece in their voice rather than yours. You know, maybe it's about stuff that you're interested in, but the sentences are as if it's their sentences. You know, I had this with Hemingway in the beginning. I think it's very common for people to try to emulate Hemingway voice. And the problem is that while he's very easy to parrot, and it's almost a pastiche in itself, the way that his sentences are at this point, when he hits, it's because he does something that disturbs that voice, you know? Like, he's the most emotional male writer that I've read in the American canon. Like, he's incredible for that. And, you know, his reputation is this tough guy and everything like that. I happen to subscribe to the Hemingway was trans conspiracy theory, which he kind of like talked about a little bit. But it's the deviation within Hemingway's own work, which really makes Hemingway to me. And I think that if he were trying to write like, you know, Thornton Wilder or like Dostoevsky or something at the time, who was like one of his faves, then he would have been doing himself wrong, and he probably wouldn't have been able to find that model sentence that really became the icon of himself, you know?
But, you know, my theory with all of this is that
is that you just don't see those very, very, very early stages of these very iconic writers where they're finding their voice. And I bet that they are modeling.
His first book came out in when he was 22 years old or something. My voice was completely derivative at that point in my life,
Yeah, but I think you can make the argument that so was his.
Maybe.
I think that
Sherwood Anderson. Yeah, derivative of Sherwood Anderson.
Yes, and Dostoevsky, I think, in some ways. I mean, it just depends on what you'd have to be looking for something. But then I think if you're doing that detective work, you're sort of, it just seems insincere to me and kind of unnecessary. I think that it's, I really, really, really love J.D. Salinger. And one of the reasons I really love J.D. Salinger is because he's extremely curmudgeonly and ascetic and bizarre. I like the cult of him and how kind of seriously he took himself as a person. But I also really love that he tried really hard to avoid influence. Because I just think that that's just a really sort of... I think it's a bit of a fruitless task. I think it's kind of unnecessary, but I really appreciate that he made this very intense effort to try to preserve his artistic impulses and not sort of muddy them with influence. I've read that Ottessa Moshfegh is very careful not to do any kind of reading or too much sort of commingling with things when she's writing for that same reason. A lot of people do this. I don't think Rachel Cusk reads living writers unless she has to for a blurb or something. I don't think that she reads.
Girl, if you think that she's reading those books for her blurbs,
I'm pretty sure that she actually only reads D.H. Lawrence and research books. She loves D.H. Lawrence. And she's a huge influence.
I want to just touch one more time on these two sentences in this edgelord writer's dilemma.
Oh, yes.
Sometimes it's fine, but when I just want to write my Omegaverse fanfic, it feels so weird and out of place to read. But when I actively try not to, my writing feels boring, and I go back and add.
Oh, yeah. Boredom. Anyway, sorry. Why were you reading that again?
Because I think that what you said at the beginning of this is that this isn't actually a problem. That this person feels like their voice needs to be someone else's voice, whoever's Omegaverse fanfics they're reading and actively enjoying. I think that they think that theirs needs to read like that other person's. And just because it's on the same subject matter doesn't mean that it needs to sound the same. In fact, it shouldn't sound the same. That's what's so amazing about writing and about literature is that you can write about a fucking plantain every single day, and every day it's going to be a different piece, and it's the same fucking plantain, right?
Are you going to plug your Plantain book?
No.
Why?
I won't.
You will.
I wrote a book called Plantain.
Are you put it in the show notes? I just really want everyone to consider listening to this David Lynch book, Room to Dream. And even if you're not a David Lynch fan, but I think that he is a person who I just feel like he has really stuck to his guns over the course of his career. And I really appreciate the courage that it takes to make things that you understand emotionally, but maybe not intellectually about yourself, and to protect and preserve your right to sort of remain a mystery to yourself. So I feel like if you don't know why you write your Omegaverse fan fiction in that voice, the unfortunate thing to do is to try to accommodate the broader Omegaverse fanfic world. But the bold, the great, the courageous, the right thing to do, I'll just say it, is to actually just protect your own voice.
Remember this. A man of genius makes no mistakes. His errors are volitional and are the portals of discovery. That's the old James Joyce. Cheers. Chin chin.